hot take, they really massacred my block. Block was good at dealing with Majorus Plus thanks to Adrenaline Surge, but was riskier to use. That was especially true against swarms of melee Minoris. Yes, dude, honestly, using the blocking Thunderhammer against Gaunts can be a very frustrating experience. Well, they just made it a lot worse. With the block chainsword, a pack of Gaunts at Lethal Plus will start chipping at your health bar even before you can stomp, and that's with the cancel. Oh, that's scary. That's horrifying. That is not good. that is not good. Against Majorus, they're a lot riskier to use now as well. It's a lot easier for your buffed up attack to get canceled now, and especially when facing a pack of warriors, and I'm not even mentioning Lictor's Raveners. Sure, you get more damage, but the trade-off is big. Blocks are really high risk, medium reward now. So yeah, I mean, this does sound pretty. Everything I've been hearing about block does sound pretty terrible, but most of it revolves around the blocking chainsword. With my experience with blocking weapons so far with the patch, I didn't even try the blocking Thunderhammer yet. I just assumed that was going to be way too slow. I did try the fencing Thunderhammer. That's a fun one. But yes, when it comes to blocking weapons, you guys saw that I was using the blocking power sword yesterday. The blocking power sword on speed mode kind of gets around the slowness of some of these blocking weapons. I am learning that it feels like the chain sword is like the one blocking weapon that was harshly nerfed, which I think is kind of crazy. I think the fact that what they're detailing here out to me is the fact that the chain sword feels too slow. There's no reason why you should be getting chip damage with a combo skip where you can't even get to stomping. That's pretty wild. That is definitely pretty wild. Let's look at what happened to other weapon types. Fencing got speed, low damage, and no cleave, and balance got medium speed, damage, max cleave. Dude, honestly, fencing weapons feel so fun to use right now. I can imagine the fencing power fist. Yeah, those combos can probably do a lot of work. So fencing, which was already more forgiving weapon type, I would agree, becomes even more so. Very hard to get canceled, and you also benefit from very generous parry timings. Okay, so bad at dealing with crowds, but god tier against Majors Plus. Are you talking about the fencing weapons? Dude, the fencing chainsword you can get to stomps pretty fast. I was just using the fencing chainsword. It feels pretty good. It feels really good against Gaunts because you can just throw you can literally, when it comes to fencing weapons right now, it feels really fun to just like spam the light attacks and see how fast you can go. Dude, I might, oh man, I don't know if it's today or tomorrow, but I have a good clip of outrunning a player with the power sword, the fencing power sword. If you just spam those attacks, you can go as fast as someone running in this game. It's kind of crazy. See, stuff like that is very cool. But yes, obviously we're focusing on blocking here. I feel like this is the one change from patch 9 that is honestly like not great. Mainly for the chainsword. The other blocking weapons, you know what, the blocking Thunderhammer probably has some problems as well. But when it comes to the chainsword, I think the chainsword speed for blocking obviously was over nerfed just a little bit. Balance becomes a crowd clearing weapon, and block. I guess block users are just here to suffer. No, I was using the blocking power sword with honestly great success, but again, I was using the assault class. So here's the thing: the assault class now has specialties, which is great. I love to see it. It also had specialties before, but now the benefits of actually using like a block weapon with the slam, like with the ground pound, with the jetpack slam, you're getting a lot out of that other classes just can't really get to, which is pretty interesting, and I like to see it, to be completely honest. I like to see the fact that if you put a blocking weapon on the assault class, you get more out of it than if you put a blocking weapon on the tactical. And who would have thought? It's because of the ground slam, the jetpack slam, whatever you want to call it. The fact that the unique qualities of assault is actually putting it into a unique position right now with blocking weapons. I kind of like that. Like, dude, it is unfortunate the way the chainsword was nerfed. The blocking chainsword was nerfed. But when it comes to every other melee weapon, every other variant, it's honestly, it feels pretty fine. Like, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about blocking Thunderhammer, but blocking Power Sword felt fine. I've heard some great things about the blocking Power Fist right now. The blocking Power Fist charge attacks are absolutely insane. So if that weapon needs a slow drawback, that's fine, because guess what? The charge attacks from the blocking Power Fist are obliterating enemies. So the fact that it's actually slow means there's actually a risk reward for the Power Fist. For the Chainsword, it feels like there's just no reward. At least that's what I'm reading right now. So when it comes to other blocking weapons, it feels like I will try out the blocking Thunderhammer today. But I can imagine already that I won't really enjoy it that much because of its speed. 100%, I get that. But I was using the fencing Power Hammer, and that thing is very fun. That thing is very, very fun. So overall, if you just want my opinion with the patch 9 and the melee changes, great changes. However, we are going into another post here talking about blocking. Block weapon changes are tone deaf. Chainsword, Power Sword, and Knife are pretty much unplayable with block now. This is not true. This is not true. I don't know about the Knife. Honestly, off the top of my head, I have heard the Knife is pretty slow, but if the Knife is at least faster than the Chainsword, the Knife is going to be fine. The blocking Power Sword is actually a good weapon. I don't understand. It's definitely not unplayable. It's 100% a good weapon. But again, I was using a blocking Power Sword with the Assault class, so I do kind of have the... finally, I can say this. I had the benefit of Ground Slam with the blocking weapons, so blocking weapons are going to feel very powerful with the Assault class. These weapons aren't designed to be swinging this slow. Dude, speed mode with the Power Sword was not slow. I have no idea. They must be literally using the power mode the entire time. And high damage will never make up for how clunky and terrible they feel to actually play. Well, here's the thing. I partially agree. The reason I partially agree is because the high damage and clunkiness seems to be a very appealing thing with the with the blocking Power Fist. The blocking Power Fist right now is a very powerful weapon with the charge attacks. So even though you're getting the drawbacks on speed, you're getting a huge benefit for those charge attacks. So maybe it feels a little clunky because you're going to be spamming more charge attacks. However, it's 100% going to be worth it. So there is a high risk, high reward situation with some of these blocking weapons. They basically looked at how everyone hated the former Relic Balanced Chainsword and said, yeah, let's make every block weapon do that, extremely tone deaf. This needs to be reverted ASAP. I don't think anything needs to be reverted. I think maybe the Combat Knife as well. The Combat Knife and the Chainsword possibly need a buff for speed. That's all it is. That's all it is. I don't think it's tone deaf. I really don't. I think maybe they made one mistake with considering the Chainsword. I think maybe they over-nerfed the speed a little bit too much on that. The devs definitely overestimated what they know about speed on these melee weapons. Probably. At the very least, that's like the, I don't know, like the good way to put it. Otherwise, yeah, the bad way to put it is they're not very in touch with what the blocking Chainsword was doing. Or maybe they were. Maybe they were so afraid of the blocking Chainsword, at least the speed variant of it, they over-nerfed the blocking Chainsword in Relic just because they didn't want a Artificer blocking Chainsword situation again. Which, to be honest, the Artificer blocking Chainsword was a good weapon. I guess it was probably one of the strongest melee weapons in the game. The only weird thing about it is the fact that it's Artificer. I think obviously the devs corrected the hierarchy for rarity for melee weapons. That was a big change. When it comes to tone death, I think this melee patch was the best they can do, and I think they did a great job with making certain variants of weapons feel unique. Like we actually now have more unique weapons than before. And unfortunately, it feels like the part where the error comes in is with the Chainsword and potentially the Combat Knife. And maybe the blocking Thunderhammer. So here are 3 blocking weapons that potentially could use a speed buff. But everything else, every other change was really, really good. So, and again, I've used the blocking Power Sword. It's fine. But I used the speed mode on it, and I was also playing the Assault class. And the Assault class right now does have an advantage with blocking weapons because it can get the most out of the damage because of slams. That sounds really good to me, guys. Like, to be honest, as an Assault player, the fact that the Assault class actually has a reason to be picked now, like over other classes, because of block weapons, it feels really good. I don't think the Assault class really cares about how slow the blocking Thunderhammer is if it's one-shotting everything. You see what I'm getting at? All right, so I hope I made my point, like, you know, as clean as I can. The patch 9 melee changes were good. There are some circumstances here with the blocking chainsword and the blocking combat knife that may potentially need to be adjusted. The devs did a good job with making weapons feel unique, and nothing needs to be reverted. Maybe some things need to be adjusted, but nothing needs to be averted. Nothing needs to be reverted. And when it comes to tone death, I think maybe they were a little bit out of touch with why the speed on the chainsword was so important, considering combos. So with the blocking chainsword, I really hope they go back and change that. With the blocking combat knife, I hope they go back and change that if necessary. Most of the criticism I've heard is people talking about the chainsword. The design is worse, but it hasn't changed my weapon choices at all. I still think that the only block weapons worth taking is hammer, specifically on assault, and power fist. I ran block chainsword sometimes on Vanguard in the previous patch, but I was under no illusion that it was optimal. Choler's Teeth Relic Balanced Chainsword has absolutely stupid stats. It almost looks like a mistake how juiced that weapon is. Alright, let's hold on. We want to correct the things that are underperforming. When it comes to overperforming weapons, it's going to take some time to figure that out. Alright, but we all have to agree that when it comes to balance changes, we are going to have to re-look at what weapons we want to use. Sometimes, like, I get it. Everyone loved their blocking chainsword. When the blocking patch released, sorry, not the blocking patch, when patch 9 released, and obviously changed a lot of weapons, I saw posts of people posting their Artificer blocking chainsword, and was like, wow, look at the damage on this, but it's super slow. It's like, okay, regardless of the stats on it, you shouldn't be concerned with the Artificer blocking chainsword anymore. Okay? If you have a relic variant, the relic variant should be better than anything in the Artificer tier list. And that, honestly, is a lot better. That kind of just makes a lot more sense. And then the devs also went into, you know, whatever they wanted to balance with, and they made weapons more unique. We now have a bolt rifle that has ammo capacity like a heavy bolt rifle. And then we have a heavy bolt rifle that I don't think they changed too much on the heavy bolt rifle, to be completely honest, but we do have a heavy bolter that has almost 1,000 ammo in it, which is kind of crazy. Not to mention, we have bolt rifles also with 2 times headshot multipliers. Same goes for like heavy bolt pistols. Pretty much. Oh yeah, not to mention the venting speed on plasma. They did a lot of good, unique changes that were buffs for certain aspects of different weapons. So it's just like they were able to give us more options for builds while also supporting the rarity hierarchy. So it's a little bit silly to me. With all these new weapons, technically, or all these new changes and everything, people would want to go back to what they were using before the patch. Like, dude, move on from the Artificer blocking chainsword, okay? Yes, it's super slow. Yes, it's probably not worth using. But guess what? It's not supposed to be worth using. It was at one point because, yeah, we were able to figure that out, which is great. But now we have, different chainswords that I think when it comes to the blocking chainsword, it's probably too slow. But I can imagine there has to be at least one way to get something out of it. You know what I mean? I think people are, like, trying to use the blocking chainsword the same way they use the other Artificer blocking chainsword, and they're starting to notice, wow, I can't play the same way again. You know what I mean? So a lot of this stuff kind of has to just be worked out. I understand the weapon's probably too slow, and yes, should the devs go back and kind of buff the speed of it just so we can get through combos without getting damaged? Yeah, 100%. But still, there's no reason why players should be like, man, this Artificer blocking chainsword sucks, dude. The blocking patch was terrible. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, use a better example, okay? That weapon should be dead right now. That is a purple weapon that you should not have to bring into high difficulties. It's silly. Holy cow. The reason why I think it's silly, by the way, outside of just like rarity, whatever, there was a game called, oh gosh, what was it called? Anthem, where you can like fly around in like a power suit or something. When this game released, there was a glitch, bug, or some sort of mechanic that was not great, where if you put on a lower rarity weapon, it descaled the enemies you were fighting. So to beat the game on the fastest time or whatever, you needed the base weapon. You needed the first weapon you've ever got, and only because it descaled the enemies around you. If you had a higher rarity weapon, it upscaled the enemies. That's absolutely ridiculous for a lot of different reasons, but mainly, nobody wants to use a lesser rarity item if they have cooler items. That's mainly what bothered me when it came to the Artificer blocking chainsword. It's like, okay, I mean, this is an interesting mechanic, but like ultimately, I'm still using a weapon that is like not supposed to be the best. It was just the best at the time. New time, so let's pick up new melee weapons. Let's try them out before we start to complain about Artificer blocking chainswords. The stats of the block weapons look a bit worse than they actually are. They seem to have changed how the weapon stats are displayed, but I've checked the game files and the block weapon's current 1 speed would be the equivalent of 2+ speed of the Artificer fencing chainsword pre-patch. Alright, so we have like a 1-to-1 comparison here. Current relic blocking chainsword is the same speed of a fencing Artificer chainsword. Alright, now I don't have a lot of experience with the fencing Artificer chainsword, I'm not gonna lie. But I imagine doesn't really mean much, still probably pretty slow. For anyone interested in the exact numbers, the chainsword has a base combo delay of 165 ms. The block version has a modifier +32. So, sorry, +132. So the end result is a slowdown value of 297 milliseconds, I guess, which is equal to the Artificer fencing version before the patch. For reference, the slowest chainsword was the balanced relic at 363 ms, so the current block version is a bit faster. Alright, I mean, that doesn't solve the issue, but it does make me feel a little bit better knowing that the blocking chainsword is slow, but it's not as slow as you think. That's pretty much what they're breaking down here. The same is true for the cleave values. The difference between... Dude, also, by the way, the cleave is so much more important right now. Just using something with good cleave in a, like, pack of gaunts feels really good. The difference between the maximum number of enemies a weapon can hit with the lowest and the highest cleave potential is only 6. The lowest possible cleave only reduces your max number of targets by 3, and the highest one increases it by 3. So it's not as bad as it looks based on the numbers displayed. Just to clarify, these numbers are specific to the chainsword, but the other weapons have similar values as well. Alright, well, that's definitely interesting information. Now, it's kind of funny. We've talked before about how the stats in this game can kind of be a bit misleading. And with the quality of life update, I guess we assumed that things would be a little bit easier to understand, which is fair because I think that's what the devs are aiming for. When we saw the 1 speed on the blocking chainsword, everyone assumed that it was the slowest possible thing in the game. It might still be. I don't think it is. It's probably still faster than Thunderhammer. But yeah, with that said, we're still clearly pretty confused on what these stats say. I think the cleave... See, here's the thing about cleave. I think cleave is pretty fine. It's just cleave obviously has like a set... basically has a set like limit as far as how many enemies you're able to hit through. So seeing like a very high cleave potential without knowing the cleave rules, then I can see where that could be pretty confusing. Same goes with speed. So for anyone who's kind of interested to see exactly how slow the blocking chainsword is, here you go. The slowest chainsword was the balanced relic at 365, so the current block version is a bit faster at 297. I think that is what we're looking at here. Okay. So it's about a half a second faster than the slowest weapon in the game. Yeah, this still feels pretty slow, guys. Well, no, actually, it would be a half a second faster than the slowest chainsword we've ever saw. Okay, I mean, that's still a little bit more doable, I think. Yeah, comparing it to, like, the blocking Thunderhammer and how slow that is, probably a little bit underwhelming. But yeah, this is very interesting. Now, to what they, I guess, did they massacre blocking? No. The truth is, they did not massacre blocking. Now, blocking definitely has a higher risk and higher reward. At least that's the way I see it. However, there are definitely changes the devs might need to go back and kind of just make it a little bit less harsh. And mainly, the chainsword swing speed definitely feels a little bit too slow. I mean, if you consider the fact that the balanced relic chainsword was the slowest weapon in the game, and then they switched that to being balanced, so it's not the slowest. Now blocking is the slowest. I think having the blocking chainsword more in line of a nerfed balance speed, I think is better than let's look at the blocking chainsword and take away all of its speed. You know what I mean? So I just think the devs need to go back on that. I don't understand exactly how they were looking at it, but I think they should look at it like they're nerfing balance speed, current balance speed, just nerf it a little bit for the blocking chainsword. Like if balance speed right now is 4 or 5, put it down to like 3 or 2. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Don't look at the Artificer blocking chainsword, see the crazy amount of speed it has, and say, wow, that's too much speed. In order to balance that, we need to give it more damage but take away all its speed. All right, let's sign it, book it, send it out. That's crazy. The devs definitely, I think, made a mistake with the chainsword. Maybe they made a mistake with the combat knife. We will test that eventually. But at the moment, everything else is really fun, really good. I'm enjoying the patch. There's a lot of different stuff to try out. I'm having a great time with the game. The game feels better. It does. So if the one thing this patch came out with that was a little underwhelming was the speed of the blocking relic chainsword, that is probably the best we can ask for, because the devs can literally switch that with a hotfix. We've had patches come with Spore Mine Apocalypse. We've had patches come with a non-functional matchmaker. Even right now, we still have spots of connection issues here and there. I did play hard siege mode yesterday without any pings, any ping jumps. So for me, it does feel like connections are a little bit better. Let me know in the comments if that's the same for you. We will keep track of this, probably talk about this later. Probably not later today, but you know, in time. Once we get more information from everybody's experience with the patch, we will talk about this 100%. But when it comes to connections, I did notice it felt a little bit better, at least on console. On PC, I did have one disconnection yesterday, but today I just did a run, it felt fine. But I did have like ping here and there. But it's weird. In hard siege mode on console, no ping spikes at all. On PC, I had like one ping spike, so I don't know. But yeah, when it comes to the blocking chainsword, I do hope the devs speed it up literally by a little bit, not by a whole bunch. I do think the devs are right with their game theory here to give fencing less damage potential, faster, balance, moderate, blocking, high damage potential, slow attacks. That feels fine. Also, I have to admit, when it comes down to, like, if you consider lore, I guess, or even any sort of realistic swing speeds or whatever, if you consider a weapon that hits harder, that weapon is going to be heavier. That's pretty much how I'm looking at it. With fencing weapons, they are lighter weapons because you can swing them faster, but they don't hit as hard. This actually kind of tracks. If you consider fencing weapons are technically like light versions of a chainsword, and then the blocking weapon would be like a durable version of that chainsword. Essentially, that's how I'm looking at it. But yeah, regardless, I'm definitely more interested to see what you guys have to say about this, because obviously everyone's going to have a different experience, especially with this, considering the trial and error that we're going to have to go through to find out what is like the new best melee weapons and all that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. But I understand the frustration behind the slow chainsword. I just don't understand the frustration behind the Artificer chainsword. That weapon shouldn't be like a brick. I know that. But at the very least, the relic blocking chainsword should have a little bit of a speed buff. And then if the Artificer blocking chainsword is just terrible, maybe figure that out eventually. But again, Artificer variant of weapons really shouldn't be our focus. It should be the relic blocking chainsword and how fast that weapon is. If it needs a buff, it needs a buff. All right, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Yeah, I very much enjoy melee weapons right now. This feels like the best melee situation we've had, because now we actually have other melee weapons to pick and reasons to pick them, which is great. But the assault class is obviously kind of circumventing a lot of these blocking issues by just being able to slam, which is fine. Finally, there's a day where the assault class has an advantage over other classes. I like it. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this, and thanks for watching.